According to a Bruce Almighty 2 pitch from the original writers of the first movie, Jim Carrey's Bruce Nolan was supposed to turn into Satan himself. That's what was supposed to go down in this unmade sequel titled Brucifer. We think that would have made for a pretty awesome sequel. Unfortunately though, it never got to see the light of day. Here's what we do know about it though. During a recent interview with Sci-Fi Wire, Bruce Almighty's screenwriters, Steve Coren and Mark O'Keefe, revealed their idea for Brucifer. As we mentioned earlier, the screenwriting duo wanted to show Bruce gaining Satan's powers. The idea was pitched to producer Michael Bosstick the very night that Bruce Almighty opened in theaters. But it wasn't until 2010 that they officially approached Universal Studios with the idea. By that time, unfortunately, Evan Almighty had already bombed at the box office, become a colossal critical and commercial flop, and shattered all hopes of an actual Bruce Almighty. Evan Almighty 2007 was meant to be a spin-off of Bruce Almighty 2003. This American comedy starring Steve Carell and Morgan Freeman, reprising their roles as Evan Baxter and God respectively, is a modern-day retelling of Noah's Ark. Evan reluctantly reenacts the whole thing because God commands him to do so. He seems hell-bent on completing the task, even if that means sacrificing his new career in government. Even though it was one of the most expensive comedy films to ever be released. Up till that point, it made less than its budget of $175 million worldwide and received negative reviews from critics and audiences alike. Most critics commended Jim Carrey for declining to reprise his role because of what a flop the film was. One critic even included that movie on his list of the worst movies of 2007. Was Bruce Almighty any better? Definitely. This one starred Jim Carrey as Bruce Nolan, a severely down-on-his-luck television reporter who complains to God, played by Morgan Freeman in this film as well, for not doing his job properly. In response, God offers Nolan the chance to try and be God himself for 1 week. The film follows the chaos that ensues from then on. When it was first released in American theaters, it opened to mixed reviews from critics, but it quickly became a box office success and grossed $96.4 million. It even beat The Matrix Reloaded the following weekend. But let's get back to Brucifer and why that never happened. Coren said that he and his co-writer pitched it, but it never quite worked out because it would have turned into another huge movie, and they didn't seem to want to really do it. He did add that many people loved the idea, including Carrey himself. What got him, apparently, was the message behind the sequel. You tend to lose your faith when the world seems unfair. While the message may have come from a serious place, they planned to write it in a friendly and comedic way. Not only was the sequel going to see Bruce becoming the devil, but it was also going to see his wife, Grace, played by the beautiful Jennifer Aniston, die and turn into a zombie. The latter was what was going to be the sequel's inciting incident that would cause Bruce to join forces with Satan. But the message is ultimately what scared the studio, according to the screenwriters. They thought that the movie would depress people rather than make them laugh. So, will we ever get to see the sequel happen? There have been a few rumblings here and there about a Bruce Almighty 2 being in development since 2012. Maybe the fact that Coren and O'Keefe have decided to go public with their sequel idea means that the idea will finally get the push it needs to be turned into a movie. But honestly speaking, no matter how exciting the pitch may sound now, it's pretty unlikely that Brucifer is ever going to happen. Carrey only recently announced that he plans to retire from acting after Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And since Bruce Nolan is one of Carrey's most iconic comedic roles, we doubt that they're going to recast the role. Either way, we can't really think of anyone who would be better suited for it. Let's talk a bit more about Carrey's upcoming retirement and estrangement from Hollywood. This comedian slash on-screen icon seems to have stepped away from the spotlight of modern cinema as of late. But back in the 1990s, there was no name more relevant, especially in the comedy genre. He played a pivotal role in the transformation of American comedy throughout the 90s and quickly became known as the Hollywood face of funny. Over time, he grew into an international sensation alongside names like Robin Williams, Mike Myers, and Chris Rock, and eventually even filmmakers like Joel Schumacher, Peter Weir, and Milos Forman. Things became tougher for Carrey Carrey as he entered the 21st century, and he started to struggle with the weight of Hollywood life. He struggled to get back to his supremacy from the 90s. By the 2010s, he had become almost totally alienated from the industry. Kick-Ass 2 was one of the comedies that attempted to get him back on his feet. He starred in it as Colonel Stars and Stripes, the leader of a team of vigilante justice superheroes. His character is essentially a born-again Christian who refuses to fire guns. The film, based on the comics by Mark Miller and John Romita Jr., is a sequel to 2010's Kick-Ass and follows an adolescent female superhero named Hit Girl. The original film gained controversy because of its violent sequences and the crude language used involving many child characters. Like the original, Kick-Ass 2 is also rated R and was a satirization of comic book heroes. The sequel wasn't as well received as the original, with it also being criticized heavily for its extreme and often unnecessary violence. Carrey seemed to think so too. He denounced the level of violence in the film shortly after the Sandy Hook shootings. He tweeted, "I did Kick-Ass 2 a month before Sandy Hook, and now, in all good conscience, I cannot support that level of violence. My apologies to others involved with the film." He added that he was not ashamed of it, but that recent events had changed his thoughts on the film. In response to Carrey's statement, the producer of the movie he had starred in wrote in his blog that while he understood that Carrey was a passionate advocate of gun control, he was still baffled by his sudden announcement because everything that was in the movie had been present in the screenplay that Carrey was sent. He agreed that the body count was high, but added that this was only to be expected in a movie called Kick-Ass. In the same blog post, he also wrote that Carrey had done an outstanding job in the movie and that his performance in it was definitely one of his best. But the creator of the movie later revealed that he was delighted with Carrey's snub. He said that he believed that would only make more people go out and watch it. When asked whether he was upset over Carrey's statements, he replied that he was delighted with the actor because for an actor to publicly state that a movie he had starred in was too violent for him would only encourage more people to see it for themselves. So Carrey had inadvertently promoted the film with his announcement to refuse to promote it. The writer also added that Carrey's stance helped raise awareness of the film to a much wider audience because a movie like Kick-Ass doesn't normally get into the mainstream news. It usually ends up getting a portion on cult or movie news. Thanks to Carrey's statements, the movie was talked about for a good 20 minutes on Good Morning America and British television. Many people claimed that Carrey's tweets may have been a ploy to get publicity for the film. The film's director, Jeff Wadlow, vehemently denied these accusations, stating that while it was true that the tweets had definitely gotten more people talking about the film, that was completely unintended and unprovoked by the studio itself. When Wadlow spoke in London, he said that he hadn't spoken to Carrey since his announcement and had been surprised to learn of the actor's withdrawal of support for the film. He added that just like viewers didn't know what words were going to come out of Carrey's mouth next in the movies, the same was true for real life. You never know what he's going to do or say. In closing remarks, Wadlow said that he still thought that Carrey was fantastic in the film and that people should go ahead, see, and judge for themselves. He also said that he would be open to working with Carrey again in the future. As for the movie's reception, it currently stands at an approval rating of 32% based on 211 reviews and an average rating of 4.9 out of 10. So it didn't exactly perform as well as Wadlow believed it would. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think about a sequel to Bruce Almighty? Also, do you agree with Jim Carrey's stance on Kick-Ass 2? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you at the next one.